Thanks again for staying with us on the program TMI Tuesday, Democracy Day, June 12th. Well, it's not a public holiday, but Friday, Monday, we have public holiday. I remember the presidency had to come out to talk about that expressly, but in Ekiti State, it's been declared as public holiday. And I know that over the years, that has been a regular practice in some of the states in the West, declaring June 12th as Democracy Day. But maybe in the future, that may come to reality. Just now I have the Executive Director of Canvassers for Democracy and Rule of Law, Reverend Olu Martins, joining us. Reverend Olu Martins, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I also have with us a senior comrade, the President of the State, Norge, Comrade Young Gilanihi, and main thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now, between June 12 and now, June 12, 1993 and now, nothing seems to have changed in terms of the agitations, in terms of the demand, in terms of the accusations and counter-accusations, the reactions and the counter-reactions. What more can I add? What more can I add? Well, the issues have perpetually remained the same. Let me start with Young. What does this mean, really? Why all the issues that June 12 represents, they are still relevant, are still visible till tomorrow?
Well, they are still present and relevant to present-day issues because we don't have a true practice of democracy. Most of the practitioners are not Democrats. And when you are not a practitioner, your actions are obvious. And you can easily tell that the person is not an expert in what he's doing. And again, not only that, the issues remain the same because if you don't have the mandate to speak on behalf of somebody, you are just speaking your own language or representing your own personal interest. There are a lot of persons who are agitating to really come up to be true Democrats. Okay. And again, not only that, the rule of law and the ingredients of democracy are not present in most of the actions. And if they are not present, then what do you expect of the action? The action will always be on the other side. So to me, the states have not changed all that because the ingredients of democracy, which the June 12 stand for, have not really been achieved. The ingredients are many and germane to the sustenance of democracy, both in Nigeria and in other developed countries. For instance, the rule of law. We still have that being trampled on today. The wish of the people is not being entertained. People are there, like in Africa, most countries in Africa, that are practicing or quote to be practicing democracy. They are just there to amass wealth for themselves because the easiest way to get money is to join politics. And in fact, the African politics, where you can take money and nobody questions you. But thank God to this present administration that are really focusing on dealing with those ill-gotten wealth that were meant for us all, okay, and that individuals have kept to themselves and they're living flamboyantly with it.
Okay. Reverend Olu Martins, yeah. You were active participant in the days of yore when this issue of June 12, came to the front burner. But from that time till now, we've seen a major shift, which is the polarization of the civil society, the labor movement, all other sectors of the society seems to have been polarized to the point that that sort of unanimity that we saw that made June 12 what it is today is no longer there. I want to get your take on that.
Well, thank you so very much. June 12. June 12. June 12.
You want to compose a song with it? I could just give you a backup.
I am want as to where to begin my political, intellectual trajectory from with regards to the activities that snowballed eventually, because it's not just a June 12th, there was an August 12th Ekpetedo declaration, where Abiola declared himself as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, after which, but before which, the NRC candidate Bashir Tofa had even congratulated him. So June 12 was symbolic for several reasons, because there was engagement in terms of the issues that both contestants threw into the public space. I remember Abiola playing the guitar in part of his campaigns, and Bashir Tofa, in trying to replicate the same, played the Hausa version of the guitar. And I will not forget where they said Tofa is tougher, and MKO is our man, who SDP is the party. Symbolic because both candidates of the people that were declared winner were both from the Islamic belief. They were both Muslims, but it didn't matter to Nigeria. Symbolic because the man who was at the helms of affair was a northerner, and the candidate of the NRC was a northerner. But we did not see voting along those lines. Even in the core north, where Bashir Tofa was from, by the time the results had been declared, in his quote and unquote, the way we put it here, in his stronghold, Abiola went in there and defeated him. What it meant was that Nigerians were putting aside sentiment, however heavy the propaganda was, we were putting aside our parochial sentiments and settling for good governance as promised by the manifesto of Abiola. But here we are, 25 years after, a self-acclaimed Maradona, who is self-styled evil genius, annulled the election, and spontaneous people moved into the street, including civil society and labor. 25 years down the line, what has happened? The powers that be, unfortunately, have determinately polarized, and sometimes with the cooperation of some of us, quote unquote, who say that we are civil society or who say that we are labor. History is replete with different people across the civil society divide who have been known to join force with the oppressive ruling class to the detriment of the generality of people, and then to their own advantage. Let's take, for example, the instances where fuel prices have been increased, and then we see people move into the street. A lot of time, labor calling a strike, and then people move into the street, and then no sooner did that happen that there's a downward negotiation, and it has happened again and again. A typical one was in 2002, where we were on the street for over a week, and then we were told to go and rest on a Friday, that on a Sunday we'll be back on the street. We're supposed to be back on the street, where all of the structures had been dismantled, and officers of the military, Kedar, took charge, especially of the now Ganifa Park, which was known as, the Freedom Park. And then at that time, I heard the civil society people say they were not part of the negotiation that eventually brought petrol to 97, naira from 150 that President Goodluck Jonathan, had moved it to. In other words, the people had become their own enemy because their mentality has been eroded. Bad leadership, sir, is worse than any epidemic disease. Bad leadership is even worse than war, because if we are fighting war with another country, we know the boundaries of the war. Yeah. We know that at XYZ boundary, this is where the war stops. But bad leadership doesn't have a boundary. It doesn't just affect in time, it also affects almost in eternity, because it affects the psyche of people. At one time, I had the opportunity to travel outside this country, and I went to one of the United Arab countries, precisely Dubai. And we went along a place, and my friend was trying to show me, and I saw very pretty girls from Tunisia, from Ethiopia, from Morocco, from Egypt. Very pretty girls who can win beauty pageants anywhere. They were about $40 prostitutes. And many of them couldn't even speak English. And when you look at the trajectory of those countries, they are war-torn, especially after the Jasmine Revolution. Many of them tried a downward, upward revolution that didn't work. So you see what bad leadership has turned people to. People have lost esteem. That's what the Bible says. When there's a vision, people cast off restraint. When there's no vision, people cast off restraint. So when there isn't purposeful leadership, people cast off restraint. There are no values, there are no ethics, there are no ethos, there are no convictions, there are no visions. And then we find ourselves in this seeming labyrinth of confusion where over the years the things that we agitated for have even become worse, because the agitations are not just there. The agitations have become worse. Never in the history of this country have we been so divided. The North and the South, never in the history of this country have we. I was listening to Paul Olongo, who was former Northern Elders Forum, their chairman. And the man was saying that it is for a long time now, he hasn't woken up. He is from Benue State. He hasn't woken up when he didn't hear 13 were killed, 12 were killed, 10 were killed in Benue State. And it has happened on a daily basis for over 2 years. And I'm asking people, how many people are in Benue State for you to be pulling down 12, 13 people, you know, every day? I doubt if MK Abiola, looking at his manifesto and the things that he wanted for his party and the country, I doubt if he's wholeheartedly relaxed about this GCFR and his posthumous one. I doubt, because the man had a vision. What will make my father and your father happy if they are not here? It's not the kind of robust burials that we'll give to them. It's that your father can look at you and say, Sonny Duke is living out my dream, not just my dream for him, but my dream for humanity. What if you dance naked on your father's grave, in spite of the fact that you buried him in your home at Jeep, and then subsequently all of the values of your father, his timeliness, his truthfulness, his forthrightness, you desecrate them on a daily basis? How be it in front of your own children? It doesn't matter the name that you give to your father. It doesn't matter how you remember him every year. He will continue to be at unrest in his grave, because all the things that he stood for, you constantly desecrate. So I doubt if Abiola is resting and receiving this posthumous recognition in peace, because nepotism, ethnicism, killing, structural adjustment program, poverty, increased unemployment, epileptic power supply. Has Nigeria improved from 1993 till date? It has not improved, if at all anything. It has gone worse. In 1993, there was constant electricity. 25 years down the line, our children now learn to speak with up NEPA. When they bring like you see, oh NEPA, small children have now learned to do so. Years after, things have not improved. So I doubt if what is happening in Abuja today, it is in tandem with the spirit of Abiola.
All right, thank you very much, Comrade Olu Martin. Very bombastic and explosive, if you like, in terms of bringing all of these issues to the fore within such a short period of time. Let me bring you up now, Comrade Young. This declaration, and then of course the posthumous award or honor on Chief MK Abiola, Babangana Kingibe, and a host of others, have been described as a distraction by the present government, by the current government, away from the core issues of governance in terms of public perception. Do you subscribe to this?
Well, I do not agree that it's a distraction, because it brings to the foreburner the issues and what Abiola stands for. It reminds us now that these divisive policies that we now experience everywhere across the country was not what Abiola stands for. It's not destructive in the sense that you can now look back to what Abiola stands for and the struggle, people that laid their life for that June 12th, to ensure that Nigeria speaks with one voice. And the first time we spoke with one voice, without division, without ethnicity coming to play, I think it's not a distraction. But however, I think we should go beyond just recognizing that day to firstly recognizing the fact that he is the president-elect. Not just that he won election, he is the president-elect. And if that one is done, it reminds those who were chief actors in suppressing that election or mandate of that our late Chief MKO Abiola, that Nigeria is not for sale and it's not for them. And that the actions they perpetrated in drawing Nigeria back, because I imagine if we were still in that pedestal of no ethnic, no religious bias, if we were still in that level, I don't think there would still be killing today in Nigeria. We would have sort of driven far ahead the level we are now. It reminds us again that the actions of those powers that be then drew Nigeria backward. And so, I don't feel it as a distraction. It's a reminder of the fact that where we're supposed to be and where we are now. And history will now judge those who ensure that the dream of a true Democrat, of MK Abiola and those who died in the struggle, is not in vain. So to me, I don't see it a distraction, but I expected the present administration, having taken the bull by the horn, to go beyond that by declaring him the president-elect. And whatever befit a president-elect should be accorded him, not just giving him that honor.
Okay. All right, Reverend, was this a strategy? Would you describe this whole action a strategy to shut up some level of public perception and public support by the present administration?
I also laugh because when you were trying to carry this, I can't know where the question was going to. And let me use the story of blind Bartimaeus. His eyes were open. I'm sure a whole lot of people know the story. And then the Sanhedrins, consisting of the Pharisees and the Sadducees, they go, God, this guy that opened your eye, confess the guy is a bad guy. This guy is not a good guy. The guy says, look, whether he's a good guy or he's a bad guy, I don't know.
I'm interested.
All I know is that I was blind, but now I can see. So let me first of all take you from the standpoint that whether it is politically motivated or not as to show up vote, and it is my conviction as an individual that it is politically motivated, but it does not take away the significance of June 12th. What the president is trying to do is to pick low-hanging fruits. Whether it is too late or not is a horse of a different color. And I'm saying so because for at least 10 years, this president, as General Muhammadu Buhari, canvassed the length and breadth of this country, canvassing for votes. He started in 2003 up until 2015 when he eventually won the election. And on a regular basis, he visited the Southwest. Never ever raised the issue of June 12th. Never, not even by mistake. When he was sworn into office, we thought that would create an opportunity to say, look, one of the things that I want to do is that I am considering XYZ for June 12th. Your first June 12th, you didn't do it. Your second June 12th, you didn't do it. Your third one, you didn't do it. You are in your fourth year, election year. Then you remember that, oh, this guy can die one time when MKO Abiola, and then you honor him. We welcome the honor. But the strategy to canvass for vote, and it is typical of politicians, may be coming a bit too late. Because I don't know how June 12th, for instance, will fix my car that has just broken down. I don't know how June 12th will put food, on my table. I don't know how June 12th will reduce the killings in Taraba, in Benue, in Kogi. I don't know how June 12th will reverse the perceived skewing of appointment. Just recently, rumor was rife that in the just concluded recruitment of police, that Kano and Katsina got almost 1/5, and that in that result, exam that was written, the computer-based Arabic was part of it. And that's why I'm saying that I know what the Christian Association of Nigeria has done constantly to address the issues, even though Professor Ishak Oloyede, who is the Secretary General of one of the Islamic movement, has tried to explain it. So I don't know how that is going to change issues. Let's not forget that President Muhammadu Buhari served under General General Abacha. And 2 weeks before this happened, I heard the president eulogizing Abacha, under whose watch Abiola died. So for me it's a paradox. I can't understand it. 2 weeks, you almost canonized Abacha. 2 weeks after, the man under whose watch Abacha died, who did everything to frustrate the emergence of Abacha, the man who Abiola, you eulogized, almost canonized Abacha. You even say Abacha didn't steal Nigeria's money. 2 weeks after, you are going to say the man who suffered under Abacha, you now want to, as it were, immortalizing. Those paradoxes do not, actually, make sense. And then people have argued that if you give the man GCFR, and I like what the Senate has done, let's have the result of the election. People have argued that not under this INEC. Government is a continuum. At that time it was FEDECO. I'm not sure that the structures have changed. The documents are there, the records are there. What we want to see, at least for the records, just like Oga Young said, I'm wondering what the name will be answering when he's 80. Because when he's 80, he'll still be answering but just like he said, let's go the full hog. Let's know the result of the election. Let's know why the elections were not, so that Nigeria can learn from history. So that when you are declaring Abiola GCFR, to giving him a posthumous national award, which is usually reserved for the president, GCFR for the president, but GCON. But we have even had Adenuga and Dangote become GCON. Even Awolowo was GCON. But I've never had anybody who was GCFR who didn't become president. Yeah, so if you have declared that you've given a national award, the right thing to do is to smoothen the whole process, go through the whole hall. Let's have the result of the election. Declare him, president at least of that election. Award him all of the at least where the pictures of presidents stay. His picture, should be there. Let's go through the whole process so that we can be seen to have done what is right and not just the spontaneous reaction that very just people are talking about.
I'm concerned with the fact that it does seems like this one single action by Mr. President has opened a new vista for more demands and more reactions, as it were. Tofa is also saying, hello guys, I'm here. I was part of that democratic process. You can't leave me out. And several other demands are coming as to who should be honored, who should be given what. Isn't this more like more problems for the present administration? Young?
It is not more problem for them. When rules are defined, those who are not able to keep by the rule, they fall on the other side. Let the standard be created.
Okay.
If we have a standard to say, okay, this is what will be this and that, then you won't have a problem. But when there is no standard, then you're bound to have confusion. A lot of person, there will be a lot of agitation. But when you have a standard up there, you discover that if you are not able to meet the standard, it means you won't be there. So I don't see this opening up a lot of confusion. If the federal government will come up with a standard to say this is why we are doing this and this is what should be, I don't see that as a problem at all.
Okay. Let me just bring you up to speed on this. Two former generals, former head of state, so to speak, have been very critical of the present administration. Let's start with former President, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, who was also a former head of state, has been very critical of this administration. And then even former military president, General Babangida, has also been very critical of this government. And these two people from history played key roles in this whole discussion around June 12th. Is this a big blow to all of those criticisms that have come from them against the present administration?
Well, I'm sure you prayed extra this morning because your questions are very punchy and very apt this morning. But let me dance a little bit what initial question about Bashir Tofa.
Yeah.
You should relax now. There are 3 people that were buried, that were hung with Jesus Christ on the cross. Was it all of them that died for our sins? There was a thief on the left, a thief on the right. That they were all on the cross, it doesn't mean that it's all of them that died for our sins. Was it him that was in prison? Was it his wife that died? Kudirat Abiola died. There's a way, or the good road is called Kudirat Abiola way, and the family suffered for it. He was the patriarch of that family. I'm even talking about his private business. You know how many private businesses collapsed? Do you know how many people that Abiola was hand feeding who have suffered immensely for it? Plus the fact that he is the one that was cheated. If you lost an election, you cannot feel cheated now. You lost the election, you lost it. So if he now wants to be honored, what about people that voted in the election? They should honor everybody who went to vote in the election, or everybody all the activists that were incarcerated. So I'm not sure that he has a case. Ibrahim Baba, IBB incidentally annulled that election. OBG incidentally was the first beneficiary of that election, because Abiola is from Ogun State. Sani Jebu man. So when they narrowed it down, they also wanted to honor the work. They looked for somebody who is from Ogun State, also an Ijebu man. And Obasanjo was in prison at that time. And IBB, when they brushed him up and then he became president, they left his rest is left for history. I like the things that they are saying. Very cogent, very pungent. But I doubt if they qualify to cast aspersion. I doubt. OBJ in the first instance apparently was the most experienced, the most exposed, and perhaps the greatest opportunity that Nigeria has ever had to turn his fortunes around with his international connections was Olusegun, Obasanjo. But at the end of the day, like a dancer, he left the stage very badly, looking for a third term. Yeah. So if you are looking for a third term, even though he has constantly denied it, does that qualify you to be a Democrat? And let's look at Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. With the annulment of June 12th, should not even be seen in public at all, should not be talking in public at all. How much less to say that at certain instances he has even attempted to say he wants to be president in a democratic setting, that you used your hands to destroy. We can even forgive Obasanjo, because we remember that when Obasanjo took over from Murtala Mohammed, he handed over to Shagari in 1979 an election. So we can forgive him to say, okay, he has some vestiges, some proclivity, for engagement of democracy and all that. But for IBB, I do not see his justification. However, is that you are now confused as to, do you now forget about the message because of the messenger? Bible says it was the donkey that forbade the madness, of the prophet. So once you look at these people and say they're not qualified, you also now want to look at the merit of the things that they have talked about. And then you look at the letters that OBJ has written. He has written another, letter. I haven't had the opportunity to peruse it, thoroughly. And the letters that he has written, maybe we have not also added, T.Y., Danjuma, who has also now joined the fray of those, who are criticizing. And I think that if you look at the content of what they are saying, as much as I do not fancy their person, you cannot throw away the baby and the bath water. You must know that Nigeria has been heavily challenged, perhaps like never before, under President Muhammadu Buhari. And unfortunately, he is in the election year. So a lot of things, I won't be surprised tomorrow if there is a day for Biafra, because if there is a day for Kenule Sarawiwa, I won't be surprised if he does all of that, because he's campaigning and doing everything to win, an election. But bottom line of what the generals have said is that as it sits now, it is not well, with Nigeria. And I think that we should look beyond the mistakes that they have made and looked at the content of what they have said, perhaps they have repented, and with their experience, I'm sure that what they are saying must hold, some water, and they must have something to lend President Buhari in terms of experience and exposure.
Okay, has this action dealt a final blow on some of those criticisms coming from this general, in your opinion?
Well, the action have not dealt a blow to them because it's past, though it's history now. We are looking at the present day Nigeria. If what they did then was wrong, where are we now?
Okay.
Have we corrected the mistake made by those people? And if the mistakes were not corrected, we are even going far the drain, then something is wrong. And so to me, I do not think we'll just begin to criticize them. They may have woken up to the reality of life to say, no, Nigeria is supposed to be in this era. Why are we still behind? So they have the right as Nigerians to criticize, and no one should crucify them for expressing their own view concerning their government. If we are truly in a democratic setting, when we cannot tolerate opposition, then we are still in dictatorial rule. A situation where opposition are hacked because you aired your view, because you are critical about your action, then I think we question the democratic setting or mindset of such leadership. And so we must have room enough. And in fact, we should encourage opposition, because when you have a strong opposition, the better for you to really showcase your ability to govern, your ability to lead. And so if they are critical about the present-day government, I think it should be a situation where the government of the day will review its own policy, see what they are really criticizing. Are they real? Are Nigerians better off now than during the days of Abiola, the June 12?
Yeah.
Are we better off? Are we heading to the promised land, or we are still wandering in the wilderness? So these are issues leaders should look at when you have critics or opposition around you, rather than looking for them to hack them down.
All right, that's just a way to wrap up this segment of our discussions on June 12 as Democracy Day. I'm sure in the days to come, in the years to come, maybe we'll have a public holiday declared by the federal government, for not just now. Right now, we hear that the old banquet hall, venue of the ceremony, is already bubbling with all the activities lined up. Ikara Atta gave us an insight into the preparations of the venue and other activities just to ensure that a very successful ceremony holds today. Well, I'm sure that in subsequent editions of the show, we'll be able to give you an insight into how it went, even in our news package. Look forward to all of that. Reverend Luma, many thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Father.
And Comrade, many thanks for coming up on the show.
Thank you very much.